You know from checking out the channel's backlog that I've been testing out several leverless controllers with a particular bias towards the Hold 42 Cosmetics ones, trying to track down the ideal setup. Over the summer of 2025, I put a ton of focus onto a different board, the 8BitDo arcade controller. Today, I don't really reach for this controller anymore on a daily basis, or at all to be honest. In fact, it has mostly been sitting on a shelf. The reality is, outside of one, and really just one, incredibly well-executed convenience factor, it just cannot keep up with my other current mainstays. If we are purely talking about the visuals and initial impressions, it absolutely nails that classic nostalgia. The retro Nintendo inspiration is undeniably charming. You've got those chunky bean buttons that are reminiscent of the SNES logo, as well as the colorful buttons lining the top edge. Alongside physical tactile dial switches, you can actually flip back and forth, which is really nice. On top of that, or the bottom really, there is a brilliant little magnetic storage compartment tucked away underneath for the dongle. It's really cool. But the true standout feature of the entire package is playing on PC via the 2.4 GHz connection. It is a flawlessly smooth, cable-free experience where you just toggle it on and start playing without a single hiccup. However, the moment you start pushing buttons, the physical drawbacks become overwhelmingly apparent. For starters, the stock switches feel pretty terrible. I ended up swapping mine out for shadow hunting switches to get a better response. But I have seen other people comment that those are way too low for them, so finding switches with the right height and actuation pressure for this specific chassis might prove to be a bigger headache than on other competing leverless models. Then you have the proprietary keycaps. Not only do they lack the premium feel of other brands, and I'm using premium somewhat loosely here, granted, but because they aren't standardized, you are entirely out of luck if one breaks and needs replacing. It is unlikely, don't get me wrong, but it can happen. And we have to talk about the acoustics. It is staggeringly loud. Sure, it might be quieter than an original hitbox, but next to modern flat boxes, the noise it generates is genuinely insane. Getting into the software and general customizability is where the cracks really widened, undoing any goodwill the design actually earned just now. Customizing anything on the fly, which is a USP of sorts, is a total gamble. Sometimes it registers your mapping attempts, and sometimes it just seems to refuse. To do any actual in-depth profile management, you are forced to tether the device to a computer and navigate the proprietary app. On macOS, some versions of that software didn't work at all. Honestly, I'm not even sure if the thing works right now, so let's test it. It also treats your Bluetooth and 2.4 GHz profiles as entirely isolated ecosystems, meaning you have to jump through double the hoops just to maintain your mappings across both of these ecosystems. Using it on Switch 2, where the dongle doesn't work, forces you to use Bluetooth if you want to play wirelessly. The input latency felt fine at first, but the perceived delay heavily worsened over extended sessions. I want to make this clear though, I don't think it actually gets worse, it just feels like it does as you get more dialed in and focused with the game you are playing at that very moment. It also lacks native PS5 compatibility. There might be a Brooks adapter you can use, but that requires some research to find the correct one, and they're usually not cheap. Plus, if Sony decides to update the system in some way that no longer allows that verification method, you would be entirely out of luck here too. This whole experiment made me realize how much I rely on the advanced features of my other boards. The 8BitDo completely lacks a dedicated function key layer. There are no special buttons you can hide behind a function layer for menuing and navigational purposes, and no way to seamlessly toggle between a D-pad and analog stick input style mid-game. Competitors using GP2040 CE web configurators completely obliterated when it comes to the customization features. Be it the buttons, the OLED screen, the LEDs, or the whole function button row. Ultimately, the S16 easily beats it as a portable option, and the M Ultra Gen 2 remains my top choice not only because it has a left pinky button, but because it is an overall better product in my opinion, even though I would really love to have the 2.4 GHz option on that controller.
During editing, I kind of came to the conclusion that the way I've been talking about this controller kind of puts it in a worse light than it actually is. Yes, the proprietary software is awful, the stock switches are terrible, but since most people won't really care too much about the software, since once it's set up, right? Most people don't really do all this other stuff with it. And as for the actual switches, they're replaceable, right? So that's also not really much of an issue. The thing that I want to highlight though is the thing costs roughly around 80 to 100 euros on average from what I've seen. And given that it comes with an absolutely top-notch 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection, I do think it's still a very good controller for what it is. Just in comparison to the other controllers I'm using, it just lacks the features that I want. Whereas the 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection is amazing, it is not my number one priority. It is a convenience, but just not my number one priority. Back to the video.
This hobby is built on hyper-specific preferences, and everyone has a different threshold for what they will tolerate from their gear. As I was writing this script for this video, 8BitDo announced the Pro version of this controller, which does fix a few of my gripes. For one, it has a left pinky button, and secondly, it also shifted the location and orientation of the R3 button to be a little more ergonomically friendly. I will definitely get that controller as well, to put it through its paces, but I fear the proprietary software is still going to be holding it back. That is all stuff for future me to worry about though, as pre-orders don't actually start until September, I believe. So, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you strictly demand robust on-the-fly customization from your devices, or are you willing to fight with proprietary software just to get a solid wireless connection? And how much does a thunderously loud button layout actually bother you when you are grinding ranked matches? Let me know in the comments below, or just drop a bunch of potato emojis. Always a pleasure to see those. See you next time.